Karibu Bag. This is Point Blank here at KTN News with Professor Peter Kagwanja. Professor, now it's out there. Yeah. Let's talk about, you said Julius Caesar. Yeah. Look, Brutus put the dagger into Julius Caesar and told Mark Antony, take it from here. What happens now? Can it be tenable for a president and a deputy to disagree publicly and remain in the same government? Is it possible in your political thinking? Is this tenable, the Kenyatta-Ruto marriage?
Our experience in the past is that that kind of disagreement has led to resignations. 1966, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga resigns and says, I love my friend. I loved him very much, but I have to move on the basis of principle, and he did. And he wrote his book, Not Yet Uhuru, and he explained how and why he thought that he has to leave. 1988, Kenneth Matiba and Daniel Arap Moi, the former president, were bosom friends. Bosom friends. They referred to each other by first name, Dan and, I remember Moi calling him Ken in 1985 when I visited, the State House with him. Ken. And I was, as a university student, I was baffled. Come 1991, Mwai Kibaki resigned and formed our opposition party. George Saitoti also left. And we have a litany of disagreements resulting in resignations. I think the Kenyatta-Ruto situation has two scenarios, throw up two scenarios. Scenario one is that we have a handshake that reassures the nation that they are together, that tells the nation that despite what you saw in Kasarani, we are still working together.
I want to come to you on the issue of the handshake and interrupt you there, because could it be that because Kenyatta and Ruto came together on the foundation of the ICC, as you explained, there was an urgency then. Do you think sometimes the heart took over the brain, that somehow this marriage was not well thought out in its longevity? And I say that because the handshake seems to be a bit more well thought out in terms of, a longer sustainable. Kenyatta was talking about a 50-year plan at Kasarani. It seems to me that Jubilee seemed to be ad hoc. Did you agree?
No, the idea that drove Jubilee, and that is going to drive Jubilee into the future, there was total clarity of it. I think what was not there was the two people did not understand each other and their visions. And it's the diversity of their visions that is becoming very clear. And that explains the frustration in Uhuru. And I can't read his mind asking, why didn't I do much study about everything here? Because we would not be here if I understood the situation that I was in. As far as the clarity that Uhuru explained in Kasarani is concerned, the unity of Kenya is paramount. And that's why he went out of his way to shake hands with former Prime Minister Odinga. The reason he shook hands with Odinga, and the reason he has brought in Kalonzo Musyoka, brought in to the extent he can Musalia Mudavadi, and is bringing in other Kenyans to see whether post-2022 we can forge a country where we think of each other as brothers, we think of each other as one, and we imagine a future of Kenya as one, sharing a common destiny.
Professor, allow me to be a bit one-sided on this next question. Paul Muite told me when he was chairman of the legal committee that the 50+1 part in the Constitution was a deliberate Kikuyu strategy because of the numbers of the Kikuyu nation, that nobody would be elected ignoring that vote. And I'm saying this because Kenyatta was very clear. These people are not here because they like you. They want your votes. And I have to put your back on the wall on this issue. Why is everybody talking about Central Kenya? Is it not the number? Is it not the 8 million votes? And I'm saying that because without them, does Ruto have a chance in 2022? Does he have any chance?
Let me take you through, very shortly, a political science reality, what you can call politics 101. You know for sure that the power of the Luo community is not Odinga's prowess or political experience. It is the fact that the Luo can mobilize beyond their numbers. the Kikuyu can mobilize way beyond their numbers, and the Kalenjin can mobilize beyond their numbers. If you are imagining a future of stable Kenya, you have to imagine that trio, right? Because these are communities that over the years have cultivated political acumen to the point that they can mobilize beyond, for example, the Kikuyu 22%. They ultimately will get about 40% if you do your maths properly. The Kalenjin will mobilize beyond their 12% or 13%, and the Luo will mobilize above their 13% and move forward. Now, that becomes clear. Now, you cannot also ignore the power and the infusing power of Western Kenya, the Luo. Matiba basically ruled on the Luo vote and so on. And I think this is the realization that is telling us that you cannot rely on your numbers.
So Professor, I have to take you back to the Central Kenya question, because the comments in Kasarani from the president to the deputy were about occurrences that are currently going on in Central Kenya, where there is Tangatanga, Kieleweke, and all that issue. My question is there a fight for that vote? Is that vote solid? Is that vote going to be shaken or not shakeable?
I have always said that Kenya is a country of ethnic minorities. No single community can carry a vote by itself. The Kikuyus, counted to their numbers, are between 17 and 23, depending on who is counting. The reality is you cannot get ascended to the presidency without the mobilizing power of the Mount Kenya people. You cannot get to the presidency comfortably.
So point blank.
Let me finish this. You cannot get to the presidency without the mobilizing power of the Luo. You cannot, and if you get to power, you'll be uncomfortable. The same case with the Kalenjin. So I'm warning any Kenyan who want to be president that you cannot win the vote. You can only win the hearts and minds of Kenyans. And that is the only way of getting Kenya to a stable situation.
So what I'm asking you point blank, does Ruto resign? Does Ruto stay? Does Ruto redraw his game of 2022? Because Kenyatta clearly has redrawn his game. And for Kenyans, millions of Kenyans watching you, where is the Ruto bid currently? First, is he going to remain in government? Secondly, does his bid need to be reconfigured without the Kikuyu support? Can he get Kikuyu support without Kenyatta?
I think you have asked me so many questions, I don't know which to start with, but let me put it this way. Ruto has crossed the Rubicon. Uhuru has crossed the Rubicon. They have crossed the Rubicon with their armies, and Rome is not safe. Therefore, two scenarios: Ruto either resigns or work out a handshake that leaves him credible in the face of Kenyans. Uhuru has drawn out his dagger. He has to show the mentor that he's made of. So it's a point of no return. And the reality of the matter is, the best case scenario I can see for Ruto is 2002, the Uhuru factor. Now, whether he gets the support or not, you cannot win the vote the way Uhuru won, the way Kibaki won in 2002, without the total support of all the Kenyans. Because now the principle of 50% plus one is obtaining. So it's a high order, it's a high tall order. The leader who emerged from 2022, and I don't want us to be fixated with the leaders that are now in play, is the one who is going to win the hearts and minds of all Kenyans. And it might not be those that we are mentioning in the game. It might be somebody outside the game.
President Kenyatta specifically went on attack on the MPs from Central Kenya. Are those MPs safe? Is there danger? Because he said, and I quote, that he's going to go to Central and he's going to go to each and every part where they come from and talk to the people. That the president said.
If you send the point-blank team, a research team, to Central Kenya, and you talk to Mutahi Kagwe, so the information in my brother-in-law in a situation here, Kebi Gitura and others, Kabado, they are going to tell you that April 2017, the Jubilee nomination was a turning point. And what came up from that nomination was not the choice of the people from Mount Kenya region. It was largely the choice of the headquarters in Jubilee. And a hidden hand was seen in that election. I'm now telling you the narrative in central Kenya. And therefore, 2022 is also a crash. And as you know, 95 to 98% of members of parliament in Mount Kenya region don't go back. So investing in MPs, or us investing so much thinking about the future of these MPs and the others, is basically splitting hairs. The truth of the matter is, with or without a situation like we are in, numbers of MPs don't return. I think in Murang'a it's only Alice Wahome who returned as MP.
Now, the other issue that the president attacked at Kasarani was to say people are coming and going around the country in the name of development. And particularly these Central Kenya MPs are using that excuse of laundering large sums of monies in all these weekend excavates on the pretext of development. Is that going to affect, in your view, the access to Central Kenya and the rapid visits? Has this rattled? Is there going to be a change on the ground?
There are two visions that are crashing here. The first vision is that of the MP being re-elected, and you want to go where you're going to get money to be relevant every weekend, every month, and every year, so that in 2022, you'll be re-elected as a member of parliament. That's a short vision. And the only place you can get that is to go the way they are going. So Tangatanga in political science are realists. They are not idealists. Realism here means going to where the money is to keep you politically afloat of the weekend and into the month and into the year. The second vision is President Kenyatta's vision, which is idealist, that we'll have a united Kenyans, and the Mount Kenya people are going to be part of that united Kenya even when I'm out of office, and that united Kenya can only be realized by bringing the Odingas, bringing the Kalonzos, bringing the Mudavadis, bringing the Gideons, and everybody onto the table. And therefore, we are back to Poland, where the Pope, the trade unionist, like Varesa, and the communist sit around the table and chart the future for Poland. Kenya will have to come back to the table and chart the future for the republic. A winner takes all, as envisioned by Tangatanga and their mentors, is not going to take us anywhere, and we are not going anywhere. We have to come around the table and forge a new Kenya that is united. The debate on the exclusion of Kenyan communities is dangerous. We came so close to my friend David D. calling for a secession, calling for the dismantling of Kenya along ethnic tribes. And why did that get traction? Because the feeling of exclusion of other communities is not just real, but it is practical, and it's kind of galvanizing new energies and forces about that can split this country. And I think that's why Uhuru has put his head on the block.
If you look at from handshake to the questions around the Bridging Builders initiatives that is discussing a way of rectifying or looking at the 2010 constitution, it seems that Kenyatta is on a path. And that path is, as you say, to widen the arena. If that is the case, and Kasarani was part of that strategy, it seems to me that the players will be different in 2022. The game will be entirely different.
The game changed in March 2018, when Kenyatta went out of his way and braced Raila Odinga, and when Raila Odinga basically braved his way into that headshake against a very powerful, almost militaristic pressure not to bulge and to push the debate, to push the campaign on the basis of electoral justice. When they shook hands game changed. And it changed in favor of a new dispensation where we dismantle the Kalenjin Kikuyu diarchy, the rule of the two, and bring the multipolarity of Kenyans, where all Kenyans are somehow able to be in the political dispensation. The 2013-2017 leadership, it was very clear even for us who were in politics that Uhuru was going to be re-elected. But what I asked my colleagues, in those we were debating with within the Jubilee circles, was, how sure are you that Uhuru will be able to defend his victory? And the argument I was making was that victory is not just announced, it has to be accepted by the losers. And the losers can accept only if they know that the game was played by the rule. Now, as far as the voting system, the balloting system is concerned, everything was okay. It was legally okay. But as far as the political arrangement in Kenya is concerned, people felt that they are being disinherited, and not by the 2017 election, but perhaps into eternity. And therefore, something needed to give. And what gave is a situation where 2022 is not going to be what Jubilee imagined. So I feel like laughing when I see people in the Rift Valley, people in Mount Kenya saying Uhuru promised and so was promised. That's hogwash. Democracy is not about deals between two people. And I think we need to be very respectful of our constitution, which give Wanjiko, Atieno, and Mwekari the right to decide who their leader is going to be.
So in a historical perspective, the first liberation saw Kenya come from colonialism and begin to enjoy the independence. And that played out. And after that, the second liberation with the removal of Section 2A and the introduction of reintroduction of multi-party democracy came and so forth. And one would argue almost the third liberation when the 2010 Constitution was enacted and there was this new way of doing our politics. One feels as though Kenyatta wants to leave Kenya having concluded the work that began with the promulgation of the Constitution. I say this because there is about 20% or 30% of that document that a lot of people keep saying parliamentary system, this thing needs to be panobited. And in arguing about reconstructing or improving that document, the TANGATANGA group or RUTO group have felt that they are being denied access. Is that part of what you're describing and in real terms, that if you change the rules of the game, RUTO becomes disadvantaged further? I
talked about the crash of two visions. There's the crash of there's the vision of 2022, where you start build up and win the election and you don't care what happens. It's the Nkrumah mantra that capture ye the political kingdom first and the next will be added unto you. Meaning you don't have a clear-minded vision of Kenya 200 years to come. The second vision is the Uhuru vision, which is very difficult to implement, but which he has to implement and has to win. That is the Kenyan vision. That is embraced partly in Vision 2030, but which has to be revised before 2030 so that we move to the next stage. And the two are, one is short-term, the other one is long-term. It is easier to mobilize on a short-term vision rather than mobilizing on a long-term vision. And that is the problem Uhuru has in his backyard. Because the people are thinking about the next meal, those who are majority of the poor. The others are thinking about the next election and whether they are going to win as governors or as MPs or whatever. And his people, his deputy, and his people are thinking about 2022. And he is not able, Uhuru is not able to get the two visions together. That, Ruto, your future at your age is not in 2022. It is in 2037, 2040. Now, for Uhuru to convince his deputy and others around him, he'll have to mobilize his colleagues, the Odingas, the Kalonzos, the Mudavadis, mentioned them, the Matiangis, the Tujus, and others, that we need to craft a Kenya that lives beyond 2022. So that clash of two visions, one narrow and one long-term, is what we are witnessing. And if you want to see the visions that wins for countries, is not the short-term. China is working on a long-term strategy, what they are calling the centenary goals. And the centenary goals start in 1978. By 2019, this visionary goal has turned China into a superpower. This country called Kenya cannot become a superpower on short-term envisioning of our future about victories in 2022, victories in 2022, victories in 2022. We have to go beyond that.
And therefore, if we are going there, corruption must be dealt with. Because part of the difference in these visions has been about integrity, service, and making sure that Kenyans get services and development. Now, this other side, where money, unaccounted volumes of money is everywhere, is part of what Kenyatta must also cure. So on the one hand, you talk about the politics, because it's a power and money.
Yeah.
So in this, from Kasarani, are we going to see some kind of more urgency on the question of the corruption issue and a mopping up of money? Would there be an added urgency to the matter?
I think so, and there is a larger goal, because there is a sense in which a feeling is coming from the Tangatanga crowd that corruption is about punishing a certain section of the Kenyan political divide. That's not the truth. This rises from the foundations of our nation in the 1960s, when we adopted capitalism as our modus operandi. This is the system that we are going to govern ourselves with. The market, mediated by some humanitarian, some charity, some come together, collective, the Harambee thing, so that we build capitalism. What has happened in 2013, 2017, and this is what David D. and others have been talking about all the time, is the decay of the system. And therefore, we are having a soulless capitalism, where the country is committing suicide. It seems that everybody, children, grown-ups, fathers, mothers, are either on a killing mode or on a suicide mode. Now, that itself is bringing out the idea of the decay of our capitalism. And dealing with corruption head-on is a way of cleaning up our capitalism, because we cannot abandon it. It's what we have had for all those years. So we need to clean the system. And whether we want it, I might be swept by that corruption. You might be swept by that corruption, but we have to clean our capitalism so that we become credible. An investor who comes to Kenya believes that I'm going to a clean country. That is why Thomas Sankara decided to rename his country and rename his people, so that every day you wake up, you are reminded you are a Burkinabe, an honest man. Yes. You are in Burkina Faso, a country of honest, great men. I think we need to change the name of this country so that we remind ourselves every day, or put some sign somewhere that we are the uncorrupt and the uncorruptible.
So in your construct of power and money, you're saying that they are now going to come together because the power setup has been shaken.
Yep.
Now the money element is also being shaken. So something must give.
You have to clean power. This was what the debate about inclusivity was about. You clean power and make it legitimate to the Kenyans. You cannot be a president in this country if you are not legitimate from the west to the east, from north to south. 2, you cannot be wealthy in this country unless that money is legitimate. It's all about black market. It's all about corruption. It's all about laundering. It's all about counterfeiting. All these things will have to go, so that we have only clean money in this country, clean wealth in this country, clean riches, so that we can sanitize and we can clean up our capitalism and enter the community of respectable nations. Now, that is what demonetization was about, the new notes and the old notes. We have to clean the system so that our children will be able to say we are Burkinabe, we are clean people, We are not people born and weaned on dirty money.
Well, you're watching Point Blank here at KTN News at the Nairobi Serena. Professor Peter Kagwanja says to William Ruto, you either resign or go and look for Uhuru for a handshake, because it cannot be either or. You either handshake or resign. This is KTN News.